Well, I wonder when you first felt old. For me, I think it was when I realised some years back that I was older than the Federal Treasurer. That made me feel quite old, let me tell you. Well, a data reporter at the Sydney Morning Herald, Inga Ting, has done a fascinating number crunch through our population and come up with this, as I say, magic number of 37. If you're past this age, you're in the older half of the population. The last few years we've been talking all about how the 60 is the new 30 and 50 is the new 40 and all that, but 37, you're smack in the middle. And I wonder whether that age is going up or going down because we're told we have an ageing population. Well, to help unscramble all of that, I'm joined by Andrew Howe. He's a demographer who's been with the Australian Bureau of Statistics for 25 years. So I'm going to just have a guess that he's on the other side of 37. Good morning, Andrew.
Hi, Wendy. Very good guess, yes.
Okay. Well,
I'm old.
the reason this number is interesting is because it tells us about how our population is ageing. And that's the one thing that our health ministers especially are talking about all the time, our health professionals, that we've got this rapidly ageing population. So 37 as a median age, how does that compare with the rest of the world, Andrew?
Okay, yeah, look, it's a good summary measure, isn't it? We look for ways to summarise what can be a more complex story. 37, the age at half the population, over half is under. Okay, compared to the world, we're older, so the median age across the world at the moment is right on 30. However, there are some countries that are well above 37 as a median age. So, for example, Germany and Japan, you're talking around 46, 47 is the median
Really?
age for those
Wow.
countries. Yeah.
Wow.
There's quite low fertility rates there, so the average number of babies born per woman and relatively high life expectancy. Those two factors combined,
Wow.
especially to give us a median age.
Yes, it's interesting. I remember being in Japan some years ago when the kids were quite little, and nearly all the playground, it was really quite sad actually. All the playgrounds seemed to be rusted over and broken. And we went to Disney World and but there was no young people there.
Yeah, it's a good indication of, especially the low fertility there. So you're talking in Japan, you're getting close to one baby born per woman, one and a bit, and yeah, quite lower than Australia's fertility rate.
Mm. So we've got those that are the oldest, up around 46, as you say. And which countries, give me some examples of those that are much younger.
Yes, and especially countries in sub-Saharan Africa got very low median ages. So at the moment, Niger in Africa, 15 is the median age there.
Wow.
So half the population under 15. So reflecting, again, the fertility and the mortality, very high fertility rates in countries like Niger and Uganda as well, 15, 16, and a relatively low life expectancy. Closer to home, Papua New Guinea, median age of 22, 23 years old.
Wow. That is such a huge variation across the world. I had no idea it would be that big. So
yeah, it's actually. I'll just say that variation's actually come down a bit. Some countries, especially around the subcontinent, Bangladesh, Pakistan, for example, those where median ages are lower than Australia, but they were much lower 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
So substantial changes in some countries.
Yeah. So Australia's population is actually a fair bit older than the world average. The world median is 30 and we're 37, quite a bit older. Well, how has that median age changed over the years, Andrew?
Yeah, okay. So if we look 40 years ago, it's gone up quite a lot. 40 years ago, our median age was 28.
Oh, okay.
So we've become a lot older in just that 40 years. And that's, again, mainly reflecting the big decline in fertility in the 60s and 70s. Back in the early 60s, a woman had on average 3 or 4 children. Now it's around 2. That really dropped off in the early 70s. And based on current projections, which I'm guessing might be your next question, we're projected to get older. So around 41 or 42 years should be the median age based on current projections in around 40 years' time.
Mm, mm. Okay, and so what we're talking about here is obviously when as the median age grows, there we're talking not only about not having as many children, but also living longer. Are they would they
Exactly.
be the effects in Australia as well? Yeah. So when do you supply these figures to the government, Andrew, and how up to date are they?
Yeah, our latest figures, less than a year old. It takes a few months for that information to come through, but our main source for this information is the census, and it's a good time to mention the census. It happens every 5 years. Our next census is only a couple of months away, but we update those figures from the census using our information on numbers of people being born, numbers dying, and people moving in and out of the country.
Mm, mm. And tell us about the census. I mean, there has been a bit of a brouhaha, I suppose, over the idea that you will be collecting or attempting to collect at least addresses this year, and people saying that they're not really keen for the census to have that information, worried about the sharing of it. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
The ABS has a very good reputation for maintaining the privacy of individuals. So there are some changes happening for this census that will maintain that privacy aspect because, we know that Australia has a very good reputation for conducting a good census and retaining information within the organisation. We strive for that reputation to be maintained to give us the most accurate population figures we can have.
All right, and so you'd be urging everyone to get stuck into it, I suppose.
It's very important for the country that we know how many people are here, and not just how many people, but the composition in terms of ages and the other characteristics that help us know more about the country and really important for planning into the future.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions here for you. One question came through in the text. How does Australia's median age compare to the USA and the UK?
So similar median ages. I'll just have a quick look here. I think we're a little bit older than the US. Mm-hmm. And that's partly reflecting some quite high fertility in the Hispanic population of the US, a very significant proportion of the United States population. And the UK were a little bit younger than the UK. So UK have got about a median age of 40 years. And again, reflecting lower fertility is the main reason for having a younger population than the United Kingdom.
And can you identify which groups in Australia have the highest fertility rates from your figures?
Yeah, we can look at that. We can look at fertility rate by country of birth. We see some relatively higher fertility rates for Australian residents who are born in countries such as Bangladesh and Pakistan and India. Mm-hmm. There's also some fascinating variations across the country. So some areas in the mid-north coast of New South Wales, around Port Stephens, median age of around 60 years old. So obviously a retirement destination there up there in the lovely mid-north coast. Yep. And some younger median ages around, again, probably no surprise, areas that have the high university populations and inner cities as well. Median ages around 25, 26 years old for some of those regions.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be central Sydney, would they?
Central Sydney and around the university, so around Kensington, but also some areas out west in the western suburbs, Lethbridge Park in Mount Druitt, got a median age of around 30 years as well. Okay. Pretty low around there too.
All right, Chris from Gladesville has a question for us. G'day, Chris.
Yeah, hi Wendy, hi Andrew.
Hey.
Wendy, I was wondering what happens in countries such as Japan and others with an ageing population. What happens when those older folks start dying off? I was wondering what happens to the populations there.
Yeah, look, some big implications, massive implications for those countries because, ultimately you're having a declining population. Japan at the moment, the population is declining, but magnifying on top of that is that there's less and less people there to support the elderly population. So look, there's some really interesting things happening in countries like Japan where they really need to think a lot about how they service that elderly population, because you're just not going to have the younger people to support it if current trends continue.
Yeah.
How far does the population decline over 30 or 40 years?
It's only a slight decline at the moment for a country like Japan. The decline will accelerate over the decades. Yeah, again, if current trends continue.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Chris. And when shall we, do we know when we'll reach peak human, Andrew? When has anyone put the nail down when the world population will start to tail off?
Yeah, there are some varying estimates of that. So demographers can project the population, and it's looking like in the second half of this century, world population will actually reach a peak and start declining. Again, mainly because of those very significant drops in fertility, especially in the more developed countries.
And someone wants to know what's the difference between a median age and an average age.
Yeah, the median age is the point where half the population is older and half the population is younger. Yeah, look, you can use an average age as well, but it tends to get skewed a bit. Yeah, we think the median age is a nicer way, and I think a simpler way of summarising that population ageing.
Okay. A few people are saying, why does the ABS need my address, to get back to that?
Yeah, look, not my area. That's
Yes,
another part of the ABS.
I didn't think it would be, so I put you on the spot there. I apologise for that.
No, that's right. No, it is a very important question, because we really want to maintain that trust from the Australian population. So, yeah, look, it's another part of the ABS.
All right. I'll check
more
that
experience
out.
of dealing with that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. That's very interesting. I was very much surprised to hear that variation in median age is so great, from between 46 down to, 15 years old. Quite extraordinary. Thank you very much for that. Andrew Howe there.